This girl named Ellen, her name has been changed, emailed me and she was like, I have a spooky scary story time about dating apps and dating in general. So 4 years ago, she moved to Indianapolis from wherever she was living to take care of her father who was dying of terminal cancer. It's very sad time in her life. But soon after she moved there, he passed away. But she had signed a 1.5 year lease to save a little bit of money. So she just figured she was going to ride out the lease. She was working remote. It wasn't that big of a deal. And if she didn't like the city after her lease was up, she would just move. But she decided to pass the time. She was lonely, so she joined a dating app. In her email, Ellen described herself as pretty. She said she has a good personality. She has a good sense of humor, and she's really never had an issue like meeting men, but again, she had no friends in Indianapolis and no way to meet people. So she's excited when she matches with this guy named Matt. His name has also been changed, and they get to talking. Matt seems normal. He's good looking. They have great conversations. She tells him that she's there because her father just passed away and she's grieving. She's kind of going through it, but they have really, really good conversations, and she's excited to meet him. So they're talking on the app for a few weeks, and he finally says, do you want to go get some drinks? And he suggests this bar. They agree that they're going to meet at 7 p.m. So she goes to the bar at 7 p.m. 7 p.m. comes and goes. Then it's 7:15, then it's 7:20, and there's no sign of him. Now, mind you, they had been talking every single day. So she logs onto the app to message him and be like, hey, are you still coming? And she sees that he has her blocked. She's like, okay, rude, especially because he gave her no explanation of why he ended up ghosting her. But she had done dating apps before. She knows that people are flaky. So she just decides she's going to make the best of the night. And she moves to the bar from her table and orders another drink. She's sitting there for a little while. These two guys walk in. They sit next to her, and she ends up like talking with them and the bartender. They're actually having a pretty good time for about an hour. One of the guys gets up to leave, and she's left with the guy that's sitting next to her. We're going to call him John. John was like, you know what? I think I'm going to stay. I'll have another drink with you. He orders another round. He buys her a drink. She said John was not normally her type. It wouldn't be somebody that she would normally go for, but she was like vibing with him. And she said she doesn't know if it was the drinks or if it was the conversation or if it was just like the nature of the night, but they end up hanging out for a few hours at the bar. So finally she decides she's going to call it a night. She has to work in the morning. So she says bye to John, and he's like, you know what? It was so nice getting to know you. I've really been going through it. My mother just passed away from cancer. And she just stops in her tracks and she's like, oh my God, like my dad just passed away from cancer. And so she sits back down and they end up talking and grieving together for like about another hour. Before she left, they end up exchanging numbers, and then they get to talking and they end up dating. Things were going well over the next year. She said they were grieving together, working through their issues together and separately, and it was just nice to have him around. Her lease was coming up. John suggests that they move in together. She's like, okay, you know what? Why not? It's going well. She said throughout their relationship, there were no real red flags. John was kind of a loner. He didn't really have a lot of friends. He didn't really have any family, but she was okay with that. He did travel for work, so he would leave some weekends, but he never gave her any like cheater vibes. John also didn't have any social media because he was kind of a private guy. They move in together, and he was self-employed, so sometimes he would take work phone calls and he would leave for a little while he was on the phone. One night while John was asleep, she wanted to watch something on Netflix in the living room, but when she logged onto the TV, she noticed that Netflix had been logged out. So she snuck in the bedroom, took his phone to see if she could reset the password because it was through his account. So she's swiping through the apps on his phone to find his email to like reset the password, and she notices he has Tinder. She said her stomach dropped because she would never have expected that he was like a cheater. But instead of waking him up, she opens the app because she wants to see what he's hiding, and he has a bunch of unread messages. And then she said she clicked on his profile to see what he had and like what he was advertising himself as. And she said she audibly gasped, like her jaw was on the floor, because the pictures that he was using were not of him. It was the original guy, the guy named Matt, who she tried to meet at the bar the night that she met John. John had literally catfished her. He had pretended to be somebody else, knew that she was going to be at the bar by herself, knew that she was going to get stood up, and then knew that he was going to sweep in as her knight in shining armor. Even worse, he knew that her father had passed away and then used that in conversation about his own mother to get closer to her. What's worse is she found out that he had lied about his own mother passing away, and the reason he didn't have social media and hid her from everybody was because his family was all alive and well. The craziest thing about this is that Ellen is still with John. She said he apologized. He said the reason he did it was because he knew that someone like her would never pay attention to him, and he knew that lying to her was the only way to get her attention. The reason Ellen wanted to be anonymous is because she said she knew that she would get roasted when she admitted that she was still with him after he lied about all these things to her. She says she does feel a sense of embarrassment and shame because she feels like their relationship is founded on a lie. She also said that she struggles with trust issues with John, even though they've been together for almost 4 years at this point. But she ended her email by asking if anybody has any advice to please give it to her for how to get over these trust issues. She also wanted to know if anyone has a similar story of they find out that their partner lies about something and then they get through it anyway. Keep sending me your spooky, scary stories. I'll keep adding them to this playlist.